playoffs are nuts. Praying to God to keep him safe.
In the playoffs, anything could happen.
Let's all watch and see.
A look into the high-octane world of NASCAR. All 5 episodes of NASCAR Full Speed now streaming on Netflix. And joining us here is the NASCAR Vice President and Chief Digital Officer, as well as one of the executive producers of Full Speed, Tim Clark. And now you got to be pretty hands-on with this show, and I gotta imagine that there had to be some aspect of assembling this story that you really fell in love with along the way.
I think there were a lot of pieces. Look, I mean, this sport is really easy to love, and I think when you see it from the inside out, it's even more so. Look, I think there were some things that came together a little bit like we drew them up in the playbook, and then there were ones that we certainly never saw coming. But I think that's the beautiful part of storytelling. So, I think we had a lot to work with, and really proud of what we ended up delivering on.
And obviously a lot of people are drawing comparisons to F1 and their Netflix series Drive to Survive. But how does this series specifically differ from that in terms of telling the story of the sport?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they did an incredible job. That series is fantastic, and obviously has ignited a ton of interest in the sport. I think there are some parallels just in there are some obvious parallels in motorsports and certainly character development and storytelling. But I think the sport is very different, from F1, and I think there's a lot of as a sports fan, you fall in love with characters, and it's hard with our sport with fire suits and gloves and helmets and being inside of the car that you really don't get as much of a human connection to our drivers as you might in another sport. I think really focusing on what they are doing away from the track was key for us. I think it's what they do with their quote unquote day jobs is exceptional. And I think that piques the curiosity and the interest of wanting to know what they do on a Tuesday. What do they do on a Thursday? And, I think getting an opportunity to see Denny Hamlin in the drop-off line with his daughters, not something you're going to see every day. And I think being able to bring those characters to life, not by, anything sensational by normal standards, but just to open their lives up a bit and giving people a reason to understand who Denny Hamlin is and who Ryan Blaney is and who Tyler Reddick is. And because I'm interested in what they did on Tuesday, now maybe I'm a little bit more interested to see what they do on Sunday.
Hello.
He still plays Mario Kart.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's how I get ready for races, Super Mario.
And not every one of these drivers, loves going up to a podium or interviewing X amount of times every single week. So you don't always get that personality and what the fans will see on a weekend-to-weekend basis. But as you guys were assembling these drivers, sitting them down, following them around, what was their reaction? How were they taking this kind of new follow-along perspective of their lives in terms of just how they kind of reacted to what was going on in the world of, we're making this series and we want to display you?
Yeah, I got to say, it was incredible from the first few conversations we had. I think everyone realizes the power of Netflix and the power of storytelling. And I think it was, we found a lot of openness. And listen, it was not easy. I think the things that we asked of all of the teams and the drivers and their families and the crew and all of those things was, hey, while you're competing to try to win a championship, we're going to put cameras and microphones everywhere we possibly can. And then, oh, by the way, I can't give you any sort of editing rights. What we capture is what goes. And that's a lot to ask, right? I mean, that's a big ask for a group of individuals that are, competing for a championship. And I would say, by and large, the buy-in was tremendous. And I think that's one of the reasons that the show has been as well received as it has, is that there was no guarding. There was, a wide variety of drivers and crew members and families that were covered. So listen, there's no way this happens without their participation. And I think they saw the bigger picture right away.
And so we saw one of those main characters, if you will, Denny Hamlin, take home the checkered flag at the Clash of the Coliseum. And obviously that race is about going and introducing new communities or people who haven't experienced NASCAR before and drawing them into the sport. and just going different places, learning different ways to showcase the sport. And this series is also doing that in different ways. So in terms of how this is being displayed on Netflix, I'm really curious what you hope that the viewers take away. Both the fans who have been here for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 plus years, and those who are just being introduced to the sport for the first time.
Yeah, there's something we talk about internally that, we can't be all things to all people, but we can have something for everybody. And I think there are some parallels to the Clash, like you mentioned. I think there's there are plenty of races and plenty of events throughout the course of the season that we ask fans to come to us. And I think, examples like the Clash and Chicago Street Race, and certainly the Netflix show are examples of us coming to them. It's great for fans to buy a ticket and come to a race, and it's great for fans to tune in and watch the race broadcast. But, going into a market like downtown Los Angeles where, we may not over-index on fans, but we can bring a race to them. I think it's kind of the same thing with the Netflix show, that you've got this, huge media platform, 260 million subscribers, and putting NASCAR content and telling NASCAR stories on that platform is just us trying to bring it to a new audience. But I think, to your point, we did a good job of threading the needle while not, purely looking at new fans. I think there are some things that the most avid of NASCAR fans saw for the first time as part of this show, and maybe learned something about their drivers or the sport. So, it was definitely not just targeted at one group or the other. Again, I think a little bit of something for everybody.
And once all the viewers finally get that taste of NASCAR, whether they're new or old, immediately after that, they can actually go to what I think your department's biggest undertaking maybe ever in the history of NASCAR has happened. They can go to the NASCAR Classics database. I mean, races all the way back to Detroit in 1951, all the way to today, full broadcast, whatever they were able to clip together back in 1952 at the Daytona Beach, whatever it may be. I mean, this was a massive undertaking for you guys to, first of all, find some of these videos, right? And then digitalize them, get them online. I guess my question is why? I mean, the amount of manpower that it would take to put all this together, why go through all this and put all this content just available for everyone? No other sport has something like this where any fan anywhere can just hop on and watch a race from 2002.
I am so happy you brought that up. I love talking about that project, and I couldn't be more proud of the work that went into it. The team that we've got is second to none. And to your point, the man hours of identifying all of those races, digitizing them, putting them up and kind of full length, finding the metadata so that you can kind of scrub around and find the moment that you want from each of these races. It was a massive undertaking, and we're not even close to being done. I mean, it's like this conveyor belt. It just keeps coming, and more races keep coming, and we've got more that we want to get to. And, I think we want to eventually get to the point where it's all three national series, and then ideally we go beyond that. But man, it was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work, obviously. But, we kept talking about what's the value proposition for the fans. Do we want to monetize this? Do we want to, find ways to make money? Do we want to create barriers of entry? And honestly, it was a relatively easy decision to just put this into the fans' hands and give that to them as something that, there's a lot of ways that you can create fandom. But to your point, how are they going to go deeper once they get a taste of NASCAR? They're going to want to figure out how we got to where we are now, and maybe they've heard of these names like Earnhardt and Petty, but they want to go and see for themselves. So it was a huge project, and the project continues, but man, it was really a lot of fun and something we're really proud of.
And the oldest video is Detroit 1951. Is there any shot that there's going to be video from 49, from 50? I mean, I know you guys, like you said, are still working. Is there a shot again, even older video than that potentially?
I think there's a shot. I mean, it's going to be a bit of a labor of love, but I wouldn't rule it out.
Well, Tim, I appreciate all your time and obviously everything that you guys are doing on the digital side for NASCAR. I mean, the digital side for NASCAR has been a big deal forever, whether it been that website or whether how much flack you get on Twitter when the scanners aren't working 100%, they're only working 99%. You get all the tweets and everything. So appreciate all your time. Looking forward to watching more of NASCAR Full Speed, all 5 episodes streaming right now on Netflix, and the 2024 NASCAR Championship, and also the 2023 one that they're promoting in that, right here at Phoenix Raceway, November 8th, 9th, and 10th. But the season officially begins with the Daytona 500, February 18th. Then, of course, NASCAR Shriners Children's 500 weekend right here at Phoenix Raceway, March 8th, 9th, and 10th.